Good evening and welcome to our very special evening together about life, the ultimate yaga. And we're so pleased to be here together with Panditji. It's an amazing topic. For a long time, I think we were all intrigued to see exactly what you meant by life, the ultimate yaga. And here we are 9 days after our American presidential election. For some of us, it feels like that's the past and we've forgotten, or it's already on to the next thing. For many others, it feels like it's still a very big topic. And yet,
it's not a big topic.
And yet, we're also talking about something much more.
Much bigger.
One of the things which is something that you talk about so often is how life can feel like some very pressing moments that just capture your attention and focus it, or shake you up and pull you in a million different directions. And also other times life can be something much, much more expansive. And it's quite amazing to think about what allows us to see life as more than just a string of experiences. And what does it really mean to see life as the sages might see life, to see it through their eyes? And perhaps that might be a glimpse of what you mean by life, the ultimate yaga. So maybe the first thing that we're also curious to know is, what is this ultimate yaga? And what does that have to do with our experience of life here and now, in the mundane and the sacred?
So, Ishan, all of us are born and we have natural inclination to do everything it takes to live as long as possible. This is human nature. Mm-hmm. And this is nature of every living being. Just to imagine a tiny seed somehow falls in the crack of a stone where there is just maybe tiny bit of soil, and when it rains, the seed sprouts. And since there is not enough soil to capture the water, the moisture disappears quickly, and yet that particular seed sprouts, turns into tiny little grass, weed, flower, and does everything in its capacity to bloom, create seeds, and only then wither and die.
To achieve its purpose.
To achieve its purpose. And this is wherever you see this phenomena. Human beings, aquatic life, in the ocean, in the waters, birds, reptiles, vegetation, everywhere. So we may or may not know that life is really very precious. And yet, driven by our own intrinsic knowledge, wisdom, instinct, or intuition, we try to be here. We try to succeed. And we try to achieve something. Some of us, we know that what we are trying to achieve. And we are correct in our understanding. And many of us do not know what we are trying to achieve. And yet we are working very hard. In that case, we simply take our cultural practices as our guiding force. Our ancestors have done something, we also continue doing that. Or let's say collective consciousness of our society, which includes the knowledge and wisdom of our ancestors' craftsmanship, our church and temples and mosques' wisdom and knowledge and experience. We also make a good use of whatever opportunities are available in our contemporary society and socio-economic structure. Just also we see what others are doing, we also just start doing the same very thing without really knowing much why, and yet we do. But one thing we are very aware of, that all of us are interested in life. Okay? All of us are interested in life. No matter how big is the agenda, no agenda in the world is bigger than our personal agenda pertaining to our life. Mm-hmm. So you reminded me just hardly a week ago or so, there was election. Right at up to the time of the election, campaigning, then the voting, and when the votes were being counted, how much excitement was there?
Mm-hmm. Huge amount of excitement.
Yeah. From the standpoint of one particular group, other person was excited negatively, and from the standpoint of that group, these people were kind of, So this way it was happening. What happened after that? Now we are watching television. A big part of the television we see, all the news that we see, how the president-elect is selecting his team, putting together his team. It's a portion of it is news, portion of it associated with our personal judgments, preoccupations and prejudices and preferences and choices, but big portion of it is just entertainment. And in next few days time, few weeks time, even that will be gone. What is left? Our life. Our life. That is what this Yaga is all about. Understanding life in its truest sense is Yaga.
And what is that truest sense of life?
Okay, this is what we have to really get to. We see life as a mixture of good and bad, right and wrong, desirable and undesirable. Yeah. But there is someone who has gone beyond his or her personal stiff self-identity and has expanded one's consciousness to the point that is able to see the reality in much bigger way. Our fortune and misfortune are measured by the yardsticks of pain and pleasure. Okay? But there is someone who is established in a much bigger reality or has gained knowledge. That soul is seeing that ultimately what this world is all about. This world is a beautiful place. Let's forget the word beautiful. This world is a place loaded with all tools and means we need to achieve life's purpose. That soul is also seeing how mindlessly human beings are wasting that priceless life. Despite the fact, in any other aspect of life, be it the life in the jungles, life in the ocean, or the life in the insects, bugs, there is a very amazing system. One creature is working in a complete symbiotic relationship with other creature. And there is a mutual dependency, and in that mutual dependency, two parties and multiple parties are finding their freedom and fulfillment. Thus, the so-called mutual dependency is serving as a mutual dependency is like a ground for finding that independence. That's what human beings forget.
Yeah. And it seems to be at the crux of perhaps why there's a lot of kind of frustration or angst about our current situation in the future. This free will almost seems to be more of a, we're more burdened by it right now because our free will is being contradicted by someone else's free will, and we're left in limbo to know what is ours to do and how to navigate the current situation.
So that's what here Yaga means. So this, the way, to understand that this mutual dependency is law of nature.
Yeah.
And in this, and when we comply to the mutual dependency, and when we take part in this mutual dependency, this so-called mutual dependency becomes ground for our complete independence. Now, this is called truth. Those who sight, they are called seers, the sages, rishis. Seeing the world and life in this world in this light is called Yaga.
Wow. Okay. To recognize that interdependence.
Interdependence. Yeah. And then making an effort to perform one's actions in the light of this understanding is called Yaga.
Yeah.
So the effort we put in honoring and implementing the so-called mutual dependency, which is other word for that is cooperation, no? Collaboration.
Yeah. Which is what appears to the spirit of that appears to be fundamentally lacking. And maybe that's why we have to acknowledge its crucial importance.
Now, that is Yaga. Now, however, it is a little bit more subtle than that.
Right.
There is this phenomena is understood by lots of people. There are wonderful organizations, socio-political organizations, religious organizations, and humanitarian organizations. Even the governments are also trying to do the same thing, but somehow in a limited, the scope is limited. What is known as Yaga is something very methodical, very structured, and it is implemented step by step, where this entire understanding, implementation, and reaping the fruits, further reinvesting the fruits of such effort back to the, and surrendering it to the same very source that gave all that knowledge, wisdom, and achievements. Everything together is done in the light of the knowledge which the great souls, great masters received when their mind was so complete, so pure, so focused. That is what is called Yaga in this context that we are talking about. So, for example, here is very beautiful example I will give you. Buddha started his quest at a very early stage in his life, and yet he did not know that he started. So he was prince, went to school, studied with very many teachers, horse riding, weaponry, archery, writing, politics, commerce, etc., etc. He did. Got married, spent few years of his life enjoying life, fun, had a child, and circumstances were such that he was kept away from any painful experience, anything undesirable, anything uncomfortable, because people had predicted that he has very soft heart, although very, very strong deep inside, and yet very soft heart, very tender heart. And therefore keep him away from um, um, less dignified, or let's say undesirable aspects of life. Otherwise, it might hurt him very much. Well, that's what happened. He encountered disease. He was baffled. Look here. We encounter disease every day. At least 4 times a year, we get sick ourselves. Not major sickness. Major sickness come in our life just once or twice. But minor sickness comes almost quarterly if we are lucky, otherwise more often. And if we are living in a family, we are living in a community, we can clearly see this person is suffering from some great terminal disease, this person is dying, this person, all kinds of things. But the curiosity about what this sickness took away from us, and is it really worth living in a way where you are just born, grow, work hard, sleep, go to toilet, wake up, work, get old, get sick, and one day die? This is it? We don't think all that stuff. No? Buddha did it. Then he encountered old person. Then he encountered somebody dead. Then he encountered somebody who was so happy even though that person did not have much possessions in life. Then Buddha left. Now, important thing is here. Buddha, after he left his body, left his home, he went through a very arduous journey of learning, study, practice. And once he attained enlightenment, then what did he do? He left home around age of 30, attained enlightenment at the age of 40, and died at the age of 80. So 40 years, what did he do? Hard work, hard work. He kept reminding people what life is all about. And everything he has reminded, everything he has taught is the essence of Yaga. O human beings, understand. There is sorrow in the world. And yet, understand, despite that sorrow that almost everyone experiences, there is beautiful, there is a great beauty, there is great joy in this world. That's why even in the most painful situation and circumstance, a human being still wants to live, stay alive. Had it not been the case, why should anyone want to live in this crummy world?
There's so much
We
pain.
see this world, crummy world. Buddha also saw it, but he just penetrated it. He went right through that so-called quote crummy world. I should not say that. This world is not crummy.
It feels
very
crummy
beautiful.
sometimes.
But Buddha saw that beauty, that joy, that Buddha saw behind the veil of this continuous discontinuity, change, evanescence. He saw a amazing reality which all of us are aspiring to find, experience. Then he didn't stop just there. He found joy in working hard, awakening people. 40 years is a long time, especially in those days when life was not that easy. And he was a monk. He was a renunciate. He disowned everything. He did not have his private jet. Okay? He did not have all the infrastructure that we are today blessed with. And yet worked very hard. Almost, when there are scriptures, there is a book called Jataka. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes Buddha's teachings, Buddha's experiences, Buddha's, how he's interacting with people. It's very amazing. When you put together, then you realize, wow, what is Buddha telling? He's telling truth. He's also showing a path that behind the veil of untruth, this truth is there and it's permanent, it's there and it's achievable. So Buddha summarizes when somebody asked, O Lord, O Master, how may I reach or how may we reach the same state of consciousness and awareness? And how may we experience the same depth of and intensity of joy and happiness which you have achieved? That time Buddha did not say much. Do this, sit down in your lotus pose and just go chakra by chakra, and one day you will reach the highest level of samadhi. No, he didn't say all that stuff. He simply said, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksha. Cultivate these 4 virtues. Drive away your sense of your own animosity toward yourself. Don't be a destructive person. Self-destruction. Destruction in general is very bad. Self-destruction is horrible. Once you are inflicted with self-destructive thoughts and behaviors, it is so painful, and to find remedy for that pain is so hard that suddenly you lose your composure, you lose your balance, and you become wild completely. You just you don't know what else to do other than inflict that enormous wealth of self-destructive behavior that you have, and you don't know what else to do other than inflicting others with that pain. Therefore, cultivate sense of friendship. Try to find that inner friend that is inside you, and bring forward that wealth of friendliness and share that wealth of friendliness in a most effortless manner with those who are first tier of the people around you, those who are very near and dear to you. Then you keep moving, keep expanding your circle of sharing your friendliness with much bigger world. This is what the divine being has been doing since the beginning of the time. This is how the divine being has structured and organized and kind of engineered the whole creation. Then karuna, have compassion. Learn from your own mother, who shares her own sap of her life, her own milk. She shares with the baby. That's what Buddha kept doing. Compassion. Mudita, cheerfulness. Share the wealth of happiness. And don't be judgmental. Now, this is like a foundation for Yaga. Then you start implementing very laser-focused tools and means and techniques.
Yeah.
And that's what is called Yaga.
Yeah.
In our personal life, we do our sadhana, the practice of meditation. We cultivate all these good qualities. In our thought, speech, and action, we try to be as a good person as possible. That's called practice, sadhana. When we come to realize that we have something to share with others, there is not one single human being who doesn't have something to share. Everybody has something to share. A kind word is very precious, very beautiful. Share a kind word. Share a kind thought. Share a kind idea. If you have little bit more than that, share half of your piece of your bread. No? Share little bit of your material achievements. You are a teacher. Share your knowledge. Share your experience. No? Everybody has something to share.
Yeah.
No one in the world is absolutely poor.
Yeah.
No. Abundance is there in so many different forms. So share. Now, this is what Buddha himself did. Many other masters, and I'm constantly using the name of Buddha because he is a known figure. No? Known figure. Ultimately, once we come to realize that even long before we attain the highest level of realization or enlightenment, we know that we are good people. We have cultivated some good degree of goodness in us. Now, 2 people together, 3 people together make a plan. However, in a very systematic way, let us do something together to help others. That is where our personal practice suddenly begins to evolve into what we call Yaga.
There's a collective
Collective.
effort.
It's collective consciousness, collective idea, and collective sankalpa, collective intention, and it is propelled by our joy. Isn't that it will be so good that we invite our friends once a week at our home, have a little cup of tea, and discuss about the spiritual traditions of Japan, India, Tibet, or something about current situation and circumstance of humanity. However, in a manner that our conversation does not turn into toxic politics. For that, lots of people are out there. They are doing good job in their field. Wonderful politicians, wonderful teachers, wonderful preachers. All of them are doing good job. Fine. Let us talk and discuss that what is there that we as human beings collectively can do which benefits everyone regardless of their caste, creed, gender, color, age, and social status. This is called beginning of Yaga.
And it's amazing how it clearly can only emerge from the mindset that you just described.
Exactly.
That there has to be, there's this clear sense that there's a hyper vigilant, very engaged mind, and yet it's very peaceful and relaxed. That's one of the amazing, it appears to be that it's a paradox, and yet this is one of the recurring qualities that we see in great souls. You mentioned Buddha, but there's many others. That there's a extraordinary sense of presence and clarity and an intensity of focus, hyper vigilant, hyper engaged, and yet so relaxed and peaceful. And that allows them to be able to hold everything or maybe be held by life itself. Because one of the things that's so difficult for us is to step out of our own very personal context and the pull and push of all of our personal likes and dislikes. And clearly we need to expand the scope of our own mind.
That's right.
To even conceive of what Yaga is all about. And this is the real challenge and opportunity that we know that we want to do something good for ourselves and good for the world. We know that the world is having a difficult time.
Yeah.
And yet the first thing that we need to start with, as you began talking in the very beginning, is that all of this, I said the world is having a difficult time, is another way of saying that the mutual dependency that we all have on each other seems to be out of balance, but we never think that we're part of that imbalance. That's the irony.
Yeah.
So we need to find our own balance first before we try to have before we put more energy into our already very impassioned opinions. and not just tune out or become inert, remain vigilant, as clearly all of these great souls are, and yet in a manner where there's a genuine sense of peace and trust in ourself and life. And then from there, we have the capacity to actually do something more. Other than that, it seems like we're trying to look for our life jacket to save ourselves first. And that isn't the kind of state of mind that Yaga requires. And yet, we do need to find that in us.
Yes.
How do we begin then? What's the first step if we aspire to practice Yaga?
So let me explain here. So first thing I said, the very, very starting point is our own personal practice. And once we have 2, 3, 5 people doing our sadhana together, then we make a plan. Let us do our personal practice at our own pace, in our own manner. However, let us sit together 10 minutes every day, morning and evening, just like we do our morning and evening prayer at our shrine. Now we took our personal practice to the next level in a manner that our personal benefit is already there, that has not gone away. And yet our personal benefit has expanded to very many other people.
Yeah.
What is required here? As you said, what should we do to reach there? A common thread which holds us together on a common ground and enables us to move toward a common goal.
Yeah, and it's a much more expansive goal and common thread.
Yeah.
Not just very small likes and dislikes, but something much bigger.
So, our example, let me give you our own morning, evening prayer. It's just very simple. It hardly lasts for 5 minutes, 7 minutes. It comes from the revealed scriptures, this prayer. First thing is that this prayer is not composed by any of us. So none of us have an ownership over that prayer. Point number 1.
It's for all. Yeah.
Point number 2. It has that prayer dawned in the fully illuminated mind of those sages. And the speech the sages used is so pure. The conduit, that is speech, the sound the sages used is so pure that the potency of that knowledge and wisdom and experience the sages received did not become contaminated, and its potency did not drop when it passed through those words. So doing prayer in the language of those sages has a totally different impact on our mind and heart than a word that are composed by us and have passed through a relatively not so correct, not so perfect, not so complete, not so pure conduit. No? Therefore, in this kind of yaga, when we are trying to expand our practice, sadhana, and taking it to the level of yaga, there has to be a revealed word, revealed knowledge, and guidance has to come from such souls, such divinity, such force, which do not discriminate or distinguish one person from here to from the other person. For them, every human being, every living being, a child of the divine, with so much purity that we are doing our prayer. Now, still it's not a fully yaga. It is somewhere between our personal practice and something what is called Yaga.
Mhm.
Then there comes next tier of understanding. Well, who are we? Where are we? Who are we surrounded with? So there is air, there is fire, there are stars, there are planets, there are flowers, there are breezes, there are seasons, there are directions, there is dawn, there is dusk, there is night, there is day. For us, for a normal person, what's the big deal? I already know that these are these things. Now we cultivate a sense of divinity, sense of sacredness. So far, planet Earth has not deviated from its circumambulation route. Things are held in their orbits, moving at 67,000 miles per hour, which is around 1100 miles per minute, something like that, and no fluctuation. Oh yes, this is law of physics. Perfectly all right. What is wrong in bringing a sense of sanctity in this law of physics? There's nothing wrong in it, you know. So this is what we bring here. We invoke the benevolent forces of nature, which are constantly providing nourishment and protection and guidance to us, and infusing our surrounding, and infusing the particular time where we are doing our practice, and infusing the particular space where we are doing our practice with that sense of sanctity and sacredness, and seeking and receiving the guidance, protection, and nourishment from those sources and from those forces. That's what makes this particular group practice as Yaga.
Yeah.
No?
It magnifies everything to a much bigger level.
It's same practice, more structured, more organized, more methodical, and done in a manner that on one hand we are moving closer to the sources of protection, guidance, and nourishment. At the same time, we are absorbing them. We are becoming a good conduit for those forces to emit their Shakti through us, from us. This is called Yaga. Now, what you title Yoga, you said, ultimate Yaga. What makes this kind of Yaga ultimate Yaga? It's a intensity, size, and goals and objectives. No?
Mm-hmm.
Everything together makes Yaga Mahayaga.
And from our standpoint, our life is the epicenter of that intensity, focus, size. It's everything to us.
Here we talk about 6 month long Yaga practice, 1 month long, 11-day long. You know how long we are already involved in this Yaga? Since we were born and all the way when we die. 30, 40, 50 years, 70 years, 80 years. All we need to do is put aside few minutes a day to understand that life is Yaga. Yeah. It started with that sense of joy when we were conceived and when we were born. Step by step, there could be some traumatic experiences here and there. That's okay. As a practitioner, we have to focus on what is joyful, not necessarily that what is ugly. So the life itself is Mahayaga. In this grand Mahayaga, 10, 20 of us, 100 of us sit down, discuss, get a clarity about this grand Yaga, Mahayaga, which is life itself. My God, we are already on this path. It's just a matter of being more methodical, more focused, more cognizant.
And fusing all of our lives together. I mean, if one life can hold so much goodness, imagine what might happen when dozens and hundreds of lives are united, especially in this methodical manner. That the same life, which might have seemed very routine and not at all reflective of any sanctity, just mundane, everyday life, as we call it, once we start to cultivate that vigilant mind full of vibrancy, and yet that is fully intent on being peaceful, fully intent on being grounded and not being in this tug of war of life. That kind of mind then can start to begin with the foundation that you talked about. That what seems like a very, many of you might be familiar with the sutra that Panditji just quoted about 20 minutes ago, Yoga Sutra Chapter 1, Sutra 33, of these 4 yogic attitudes. They seem very simplistic at face value. The idea of friendliness, compassion, happiness, and not being judgmental. And yet, they're extremely sophisticated. They form the basis for everything.
Ishan, something simplistic does not mean that it's not really that powerful.
Maybe that's the whole point you're trying to make about life.
Look here. What is happening in Paris right now? Chaos. There is already chaos in Israel and Gaza. That chaos has been transported to Europe. People are hurting and harming each other. What antidote do you need to really manage it? Maitri. Maitri. How many of us are really practicing Christianity? It will be very disappointing. Hardly any of us are really practicing Christianity. Hardly any of us practicing Hinduism. Hardly any one of us are practicing Judaism. Hardly any one of us are practicing Islam in its truest sense. Is there anyone who ever says that hurt and harm and hate each other? But rather, love your neighbors as thyself. First thing, learn to love your neighbor. My God. What are you talking about? Loving my neighbor? It is simple. Sometimes that's what people lose the sight of it. So it is job of politicians to fix this problem, not us. It is job of our religious leaders to fix this problem, not us. It is job of some humanitarian organizations to fix this problem, not us.
Well, if that's the case, then we'll perpetually live in that state.
My God, this is what Maitri, Karuna, Mudita. Yes, those people are good or those people are bad. We are trying to figure out who is more good and who is more bad. Who is more right and who is more wrong. Tens of thousands of years have gone by. And we have not yet reached to any conclusion. What is important here to understand? That you are living in a house and your house is demolished and you become homeless. It's very painful. When, how, why, etc. it happened, add one more year in that 10,000 years, that's okay. But the reality is that person needs little food, little water, little comfort. That's called compassion, karuna. Our immediate need is maitri, karuna, mudita, and upeksha.
These 4 yogic attitudes.
4 yogic attitudes. And let the experts go on debating that who deserves cruelty. Let them do it.
Yeah.
Who deserves beatings.
Yeah.
Let them do it.
The judgment should be left.
No. All that thing. And this is the fundamental of Yaga.
Yeah.
And when you are inviting and invoking the nature's forces to help you and help others to get a taste of, get a droplet of love, compassion, maitri, karuna, mudita, and upeksha, love, compassion, kindness, friendliness, just a drop of that nectar, a drop of that elixir, if you can share and inspire others to have the same and share the same with others. That is the beginning of Yaga. And when you do it in a magnificent way, I'll give you a very amazing example. Last year I was in Japan. I've been to Japan many, many times. And last year I went at the invitation of a amazing group of people, spiritual organizations, universities, and archaeologists, and anthropologists, everybody together, a group of, and some industrialists. They came together to create a 2-week-long activity in Japan, where 10-15 of people from different parts of the world, specializing in different subjects, were invited to travel to different places. During that time, I started doing lots of study of Japan. Japanese culture has gone through many, many ups and downs of process of integration and protectionism and isolation. So the 5th century, 6th century, 7th century AD was very tumultuous time in Japan. Empires were falling and being reunited. Borders were kind of expanding and shrinking, and in the process, lots of bloodshed were happening. So, the emperor of Japan, whose capital was in Nara, came to know about Yaga. So he arranged a gigantic Yaga.
Amazing.
Gigantic Yaga, and invited a Buddhist master to come and officiate with him. Great many people from China and some of them all the way from India, they came to Nara. And today's one of the world's largest shrine, that is in Nara, and one of the perhaps the biggest one in Japan, was built for that particular purpose.
Amazing.
Okay. And the effect of that kind of Yaga lasted for centuries, so to the point that even though the capitals kept shifting from Nara to Kyoto, and at some point, some places here and there, but for a long time, Nara and Kyoto is hardly an hour away from Nara. They are quite close to each other. So I am giving you this example. People have done this kind of experiments. Today, we have become it's like we have become religious maniac. Either we are too much into the institutionalized religious kind of concepts, or we are totally opposed to it.
Yeah.
And hardly there are people, those who try to understand the pure spiritual dimension of religion, whatever religion I'm talking about, Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, or anybody. There is a dimension of every religion which is just beautiful. And that beautiful spiritual aspect of religion talks about exactly what we are talking about in the context of Yaga. The sages, their vision, their understanding of reality, and the reality which continuously guides, protects, and provides nourishment to human race.
Yeah.
That's what kind of Yaga I'm talking
That's what we're talking about.
That's what we are
Yeah.
talking about.
And it's amazing how our life really embodies that in a microcosm. But for us to turn an ordinary seeming life into an extraordinary life, we need to cultivate these virtues. And that begins to elevate our own consciousness, where we start to see the world through the eyes of these sages. And it gives us the courage to begin wherever we are. And the very principle of Yaga is very sophisticated, yet very eminently practical. What you talked about of the power of mantra, it might seem esoteric, it might seem shrouded in a certain mystery, and yet exactly as you said, it's that crystal clear encapsulation of the profound nature of who we are and what our reality is within. And it is a vehicle itself, and we all need a vehicle to help us reach our goal. So Yaga harnesses that power of mantra. Yaga helps us to see the sacred nature of creation around us and invoke that sanctity and get the benefit of whatever nature has in store and bring it to a focus, bring it to a purpose. So it's bringing all the elements together. And it really is a special experience. We have so many opportunities that are so dear to our own heart. Sri Yaga, which we're about to undertake this New Year's.
Yes, that's right.
Rudra Yaga, that we're about to undertake in Prayagraj at the Kumbh Mela next February in India. And our Mahashri Yaga 6-month
The
practice
grand one. Yes.
next September through March in India and Khajuraho. Each of them have their own personality. And what I find so fascinating is that, sometimes the modern consumer in us, the externally oriented part of us thinks, well, is it just like different flavors of ice cream? Is it just more for the sake of more? Without realizing all of these are unique expressions of that extraordinary life that I just talked about, the extraordinary potential of this beautiful world. And the interdependence you talked about has everything to do with diversity.
Yes.
So we're trying to bring forward various aspects of this and enrich them, infuse them with our own consciousness and allow our consciousness to be infused by them. So there is something unique about what you're terming as Sri Yaga or Rudra Yaga or Mahashri Yaga. Each have their own place. And it's such a beautiful opportunity to see how they all fit together and where we might also fit into all of that.
That's right. That's right.
And it almost seems like we're, gifted with the opportunity to dig different wells. Maybe we think that we're the well diggers, and yet what we're doing is actually just learning to dip from a well and quench our own thirst, and in the process share, do something. And it feels like the best way of utilizing our time, our life, our energy, and making the world a better place, which is what we're really trying to do. And when we seem to be disconnected from that opportunity, in the small micro context of, we started off talking about how some people still might be agitated or in a state of confusion about what to do with this election result. Well, we need to do whatever we can here and now to see this world through the eyes of the sages.
Right.
And that's what Yaga is all about.
Yeah. See here, elections are happening somewhere all the time. And intentions behind every election everywhere in the world is very positive, very beautiful, very good. Sometimes that goodness which we hope to bring forward through these elections work out, sometimes don't. And yet, we as practitioners have the ability to make the best out of whatever the result of any election.
Or any action, any aspect
action,
of life.
Any aspect of life.
Yeah.
There is no system perfect other than the divine being who created this such a wonderful, perfect world. You know?
And that's what's so intriguing about the vision of the sages, that we think that making the best out of every situation seems like a afterthought or something to make everything okay. And yet, to the sages, it's not the last option or just the backup plan, but it's the primary plan that let us find the goodness in every aspect of life and make use of that and draw from all these different threads and put them together wisely, which is what exactly the tantric principle of Yaga is all about. How there's an epicenter. In most cases, in the literal sense of Yaga, this idea of sacred fire, which is infused with consciousness, is the epicenter, whatever brings radiance in our life. And then within that context, we arrange everything. And we can do the same in our own personal life, it seems, if we have that kind of positive mind.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe one concluding thought. You had talked often about how there's a deeper intention. And clearly, this sankalpa, this radiant, purposeful intention, anchors our personal life, but also in the context of Yaga, it anchors something much, much more grand and universal. What does it mean that we are held by or guided by this profound intention, sankalpa, of the sages, of the divine in life that surrounds us, and how can we be in service of that intention?
See here, nature is continuously working and working very hard and very skillfully, very wisely to help manifest the limitless resources and nutrients that are there in our soil, for example. That sankalpa of the highest divine being. And what is that sankalpa? Let the infinite peace and prosperity, which solely depends on the nutrition, the nutritious food, be available to all living beings. At every moment, in infinite ways, nature is engaged in peeling off the molecular structure of different elements, allowing the nutrients to become available to those who consume it, be it bacteria, be it trees, plants, and so on. It's going on from time immemorial, since time immemorial. That's intention, power of intention, sankalpa. In our personal life, there is sankalpa. Our parents, and I'm giving general examples, so please don't get into your too many details of personal life or my parents were not so good or bad, etc. Not that, just in general. There is sankalpa. Parents have to see their children grow and blossom. Sage's sankalpa is to see the humanity grow and blossom. And we just tap into the sankalpa of the sages.
Yeah.
Let me be instrumental, let me be part of that sankalpa of the sages, which includes this great vision and powerful intention to grow and blossom.
Irrepressible need, desire to grow and blossom.
Therefore, then from there, of course, so for example, this New Year's, we are involving ourselves, we are getting ready to have Sri Yaga. Sri means prosperity, inner beauty, inner abundance, inner, etc. What does it mean? The beauty which makes us feel good about ourselves. The prosperity that makes us feel content and happy about ourselves and others. That's called Sri Yaga. Rudra Yaga, tapping into that foundational, primordial intention of not just one particular sage, master, or divine being, but rather all sages, masters, and divine beings belonging to any tradition or even beyond the tradition.
Yeah.
What is that intention? Just simple. Let life thrive. Let life be not suppressed and repressed. Let life be not insulted and humiliated.
Yeah. A dignity.
Dignity. Let the elixir of life be available to everyone and everything. Let me be part of that primordial intention which wishes to see the life force to thrive. That's called Rudra Yaga. Of course, the details are you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. That's called Rudra Yaga. So, as a human being, as an individual human being, as an organization, and I'll say yourself as a friends of this organization, members of this organization, or students of this organization, it is really great honor and great pleasure to somehow become an integral part of that intention, which is so pure, so dignified, and so noble that not just simply wishes, but rather offers itself to the whole of creation, including the human race, so that the life can thrive and prosper.
Yeah.
That's what Yaga is all about. The details can be filled. If you have a very, very, very focused kind of attitude, let such and such type of prosperity, strength, vitality, and healing emerge. Then that's called different. That's called very specific Yaga. Rudra Yaga, for example. Let this sense of beauty, sense of joy, sense of fulfillment, sense of contentment, thrive and blossom. That's called Sri Yaga. And when it's a grand practice, it's called Mahasri Yaga. In our own little world, all of us have that ability, and not just ability, rather have the opportunity to be a contributor to that process. And by doing so, we become part of that gigantic stream of sages' wisdom, love, and compassion.
Yeah. No? And what can be better than that?
That's right.
It's the greatest gift. Well, what a lovely way to spend our evening together.
That's
These
wonderful.
opportunities
That's really
for satsang are so precious.
Thank you. It is really so wonderful that I'm always just overwhelmed in a positive way, overwhelmed with the great gift of the technology. That you might be sitting on your couch and enjoying your life there, and here I'm sitting here in the comforts of nice heated room, climate controlled room, and having satsang with all of you all over the world. That is really, we are living in a beautiful time, wonderful time.
It's a really blessed time.
Blessed time.
And we really look forward to seeing you again soon, and invite you to please join us in whatever capacity. There's so many extraordinary opportunities to be together and to serve together, and that really is the greatest joy.
That's right.
So please learn more online, and we look forward to being together.
Thank you. God bless you all.